Hello students, today we are going to begin with the second unit. This unit is called Principles of Management. Before we begin the lesson, I want you to find a quiet space to sit in. Please keep a notepad or a register with you and ensure that your eyes are on the screen. Now, Industrial Revolution caused a massive improvement in the way in which economies conducted their business. For example, it led to the emergence of machines. It helped in the development of communication and transportation, and overall, it improved the standard of living of the people. But at the same time, the employees who worked in such kind of new setups and new factories were very much disturbed and troubled by the way in which the managers would treat them. For example, there was a kind of dictatorship that was followed in which the manager would just assign the work and the employee had to do it. So the employees and managers didn't have any relationship. They wouldn't interact with each other in a cordial manner. Secondly, the employees were not paid fairly, and so there was no scientific method in which pay for the employee was decided. So on and so forth, there were many such problems which the employees faced on a regular basis. Now, during this time, there were two individuals who had the courage to stand up and say that no, this isn't the way to do business, this isn't the way to treat your employees, this isn't the way to pay them, and they devised certain principles which we now call the principles of management, and their school of thought is known as the classical school of thought of management. So these two individuals were F.W. Taylor and Henry Fayol. F.W. Taylor was an American mechanical engineer and Henry Fayol was a French mining engineer. So we see that both these individuals were from a science background, and they are the ones who recommended certain principles that must be followed by management, and you'll be happy to know that these principles are followed even today in companies across the world. Before we proceed with the lesson, let's spend some time in understanding what a principle actually means. Principle is a word that was coined in the 14th century, and it means the beginning or origin, the foundation, or a fundamental truth. Now, when I say principle, I am talking about an unchanging fact in a given situation which holds universal validity. Now, let's look at nature and a simple principle which is used in gardening, which is we reap what we sow. Now, if I decide to sow a mango seed, I am going to expect a mango tree. So when I talk about a principle, I say that I am going to apply this principle in a situation and I'm going to expect the following result. So when we know that a principle is going to cause a certain kind of effect, it's very helpful, especially for the managers, to use that principle in a given situation and know that yes, we are going to get the desired result that way. So let's look at the simple nature of the principles of management. This nature of principles of management is like a disclaimer, which means that the principles that we are about to study are going to have certain kind of features. What are they? The first one is these principles are going to have universal applicability, which means that they can be applied to all kinds of organizations everywhere. Second, these are general guidelines, which means that they can be molded in the situations according to organization from time to time. Third, they are formed by practice and experimentation. Yes, like we just studied that these two individuals, F.W. Taylor and Henry Fayol, they experimented with these principles before devising them. Fourth, they are flexible in the sense that they are not rigid prescriptions. They don't have to be followed absolutely. They can be modified by the manager as and how the situation changes. Fifth, they are mainly behavioral, which means that these principles are meant to modify the behavior of human beings. These principles are not meant for machinery. These principles are meant for the human beings to enable them to become better in their work, to do well in their work, and to eventually achieve the organizational objectives. The sixth is cause and effect relationship. This means that these principles intend to establish a relationship between cause and effect so that they can be used in similar situations in large number of cases. For example, like we just said, that we reap what we sow. So similarly, when we talk about the principles of management, these are principles which do have a cause and effect relationship. So when they're applied in a particular situation, they are going to have a certain effect. Seventh, these are contingent, which means that they are dependent upon the prevailing situation at a particular time in the organization. Now let us look at the significance of these principles of management. We have just discussed how there was a dire need for these management principles, and F.W. Taylor and Henry Fayol made a huge contribution when they brought about these principles. So before we go into the principles, let's look at the significance of these principles. The first one is that providing managers with useful insights into reality. Yes. What do we mean by useful insights? It means the understanding and the knowledge that managers need to become very good at solving problems that may recur time and time again. So let's say there's a problem of discipline that is going to be occurring always, it's always going to be there in an organization. So how do the principles help the managers? They give you certain guidelines. We're going to study about them. So very important that these principles provide managers with useful insights into reality. Second, optimum utilization of resources and effective administration. Now we know that there is a lot of time wasted if the problem of discipline isn't managed properly, and there's going to be a lot of time wasted, energy wasted, and there's going to be a lot of loss, in different ways. So what does the principles of management help us do? They help us utilize the resources and cause effective administration. Third one is scientific decisions. Now, since these principles are very much devised through experimentation, they help the managers to make a scientific decision. Scientific decision means it's not based on a blind faith. Let's say the discipline issue needs to be addressed, and the decision that has been taken is that all employees must follow a code of conduct. Now, in such a case, is this decision taken through blind faith? No, it's taken using a scientific approach. The fourth one is meeting changing environment requirements. Now we know that all businesses operate in dynamic environments, and in order to meet those dynamic environments, you have to hold on to something which is constant, because everything around the organization is going to be changing, and so to hold on to something constant, to hold on to something fundamental, the unchanging truth is actually the significance of the principles of management. It helps us in meeting the changing environment requirements. The fifth one is fulfilling social responsibility. Since these principles of management were devised by people who worked in such setups during the Industrial Revolution, they are very much employee friendly, and they very much emphasize that it's not just the work of the managers which is important or the employees which is important, but they must also fulfill their social responsibilities. The sixth one is that the principles of management are important because they help in the management training, education and research. Very important. We know that F.W. Taylor and Henry Fayol stood up and they criticized the managers for their unscientific approach with work and with the employees. So we know that the principles are actually the ones that are the core of the management theory, and they are the basis for management training, education and research, and these are still used today in MBA, in BBA, in management studies, and they are very much part of companies all across the world.